Star Trek will never reveal the truth about TNG's two most mysterious characters, and it's disappointing. Star Trek. The Next Generation is beloved for many reasons: its optimism, its writers, its exploration of moral dilemmas, and its visionary world building. But woven into the series' 7-year run are mysteries that were never fully solved, threads that dangled just long enough to intrigue fans for decades afterward. And among all the enigmas TNG gave us, two characters stand out as the biggest, what could have been puzzles in the entire franchise: Guinan and the Traveler. Both characters are steeped in cosmic ambiguity, presented as beings who stand outside the usual rules of the Star Trek universe. They're powerful, wise, and mystifying. They hint at histories and abilities the show never fully explores. And despite TNG's influence on the franchise, it's now painfully clear that Star Trek will never truly reveal who they were, what they were capable of, or what their existence meant for the galaxy. As exciting as modern Star Trek can be, there's a quiet sadness in knowing that some of TNG's deepest unanswered questions will remain unanswered forever. Here's why, and why it's so disappointing. Guinan, a timeless enigma the franchise won't touch. Guinan has always occupied an unusual place in the Star Trek mythos. Played with serene depth by Whoopi Goldberg, she sits in 10 forward like a calm observer of humanity's triumphs and failings. She's not Starfleet, not a soldier, not a scientist, but she radiates more wisdom than almost any character aboard the Enterprise. And yet we learn almost nothing definitive about her people, the El-Orients. What we do learn only deepens the mystery. She senses ruptures in the timeline with terrifying accuracy. She has a unique animosity toward Q, who treats her like a legitimate threat. She exists across alternate universes with full awareness of changes others don't perceive. She hints at lifespans and histories that stretch far beyond Federation understanding. Guinan's abilities are so potent that Q himself once warned Picard that she was not what she appears to be, which is about the highest compliment a cosmic being can give. Yet TNG never expanded on this, leaving us with a character whose powers and past are tantalizing but undefined. Picard tried, but didn't truly answer anything. Guinan's reappearance in Star Trek. Picard Season 2 gave fans hope that some long-awaited answers might finally arrive. Instead, the show sidestepped the core mystery, offering touching emotional continuity but avoiding any canonical exploration of who she really is or how her abilities function. We saw more of her personality, her compassion, her bond with Picard. All lovely, but nothing revelatory. No deep dives into the El-Orient species. No exploration of her connection with Q. No explanation for her uncanny perception of the multiverse. It was a reminder that modern Trek is cautious about over-defining the franchise's most mystical elements, afraid that answers might limit future storytelling. But some mysteries deserve closure. The Traveler, a cosmic force who vanished too soon. If Guinan is a quiet mystery, the Traveler is an explosive one. Introduced early in TNG as a strange, hyper-evolved being who perceives space, time, and thought as a unified fabric, the Traveler was framed as a doorway into a more metaphysical corner of the Star Trek universe. His defining claim, and one of TNG's most ambitious statements, was that human imagination itself could shape reality. Wesley Crusher was chosen as someone with the potential to transcend physical existence, becoming something more than human. It was bold. It was weird. It was inspiring. And then it went nowhere. The Traveler appeared only a handful of times, eventually guiding Wesley into a higher plane of existence in one of the most abrupt and unsatisfying exits in Star Trek history. This should have been the start of a sweeping storyline about evolution, consciousness, and humanity's cosmic destiny. Instead, it was quietly dropped. Picard's cameo was fun, but didn't bring back the depth. The Traveler concept made a surprising return in Picard Season 3 when Jack Crusher's abilities attracted Traveler-like attention. For fans, it was a thrilling nod, a sign that someone in the writer's room remembered TNG's most wildly metaphysical thread. But even then, the explanation felt surface level. There were no appearances from the Traveler, no update on Wesley's fate or ongoing evolution, no expansion of the lore. The mystery stayed intact, but not in a satisfying way, more like a forgotten file left sealed in a drawer. Why Star Trek won't ever resolve these mysteries. There are several reasons why these characters' stories will stay unresolved, and none of them have to do with lack of potential. One, modern Trek prefers answers grounded in technology, not metaphysics. Recent Star Trek shows are more comfortable with concrete threats, political conflicts, and emotional story arcs than with undefinable cosmic beings. TNG thrived on high sci-fi philosophical speculation. Today's Trek leans toward grounded storytelling. Characters like Guinan and the Traveler don't fit neatly into that model. They're mythic, symbolic, metaphysical. Their very vagueness is what makes them compelling, and modern Trek seems reluctant to touch that. Two writers don't want to close doors on old storylines. Guinan and the Traveler represent open-ended possibilities. Once the franchise defines them, their utility in future stories shrinks. Today's Trek tends to avoid locking itself into lore that could constrain later writers. 3. The actors themselves define the characters too strongly. Whoopi Goldberg and Eric Menyuk, as the Traveler, brought unique chemistry and presence to their roles. Recasting would deflate the mystery. Relying on aging actors limits how much story can be told, so the franchise keeps the characters in respectful stasis. 4. Their mysteries serve as symbols, not plots. Guinan represents empathy across time. The Traveler represents human potential and transcendence. Clarifying their origins might make them less mythic, and Star Trek often values symbolism over canonical precision. Why it's so disappointing that we'll never know, even if the franchise has practical reasons for holding back. That doesn't make the lack of closure any less frustrating. These mysteries were part of what made TNG special. TNG was never afraid to imagine that the universe was bigger, weirder, and more magical than we understood. Guinan and the Traveler hinted at realms of possibility beyond warp drives, phasers, and starship diplomacy. They suggested that humanity was on a path towards something greater. Their arcs deserved payoff. Guinan's history with Q, her species' cosmic awareness, the Traveler's hints about shaping reality, Wesley's ascension into a higher existence. These weren't small teases. They were seeds of ideas that could have matured into some of Star Trek's most ambitious stories. New shows miss the chance to build on TNG's deepest themes. By sidestepping these characters, modern Trek risks losing touch with one of the franchise's most profound legacies. That the future is not just technological, but spiritual, intellectual, and evolutionary. Characters like Guinan and the Traveler invited viewers to imagine what humanity might one day become, not just what ships it might build. The legacy of mystery, and what it means for fans. The truth is, these characters may remain mysteries precisely because they captured something intangible about Star Trek's heart. Maybe Guinan is more compelling because we don't know everything about her. Maybe the Traveler's power matters more as an idea than as an explained phenomenon. But after 35 years, fans can't help but crave answers. That's the bittersweet part. We want the lore, even if we know deep down that defining the unknown might diminish the magic. It's disappointing because it reflects a contrast between eras, between TNG's willingness to dream in vast philosophical strokes and modern Trek's preference for grounded, character-centered stories. Guinan and the Traveler represent an era when Star Trek dared to suggest that consciousness itself might be the next frontier. And since modern Trek shows no interest in revisiting these enigmas, that truth will remain hidden forever. Star Trek's greatest mysteries are part of its soul. Even though we'll never get closure, there's something comforting in knowing that.